Al-Maqam means station. But in this specific context, Maqam Ibrahim, it refers to a very specific station of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And that station is where he had his feet on when he was raising the foundation of Al-Kaaba. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَإِذْ يَرْفَعُ إِبْرَاهِيمُ الْقَوَاعِدَ مِنَ الْبَيْتِ وَإِسْمَعِيلُ. Ibrahim alayhi salam with his son Ismail, they both were raising the foundation of Al-Kaaba. And we explained that in a previous Khatira, in which we mentioned how the Kaaba was rebuilt and how they elevated the structure of the Kaaba. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, after he reaches his normal height, he wanted to raise the foundation or raise the structure of the Kaaba. So he wanted an extra, of course, height. And that's when he asked his son to bring him a brick or a stone in which he used as the station for his feet. So he would be standing on that rock, and he would raise an extra height for the walls of Al-Kaaba. Now, some of the narrations mention that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala softened this stone for Ibrahim alayhi salam so that his feet would not fall off or wouldn't slide off the stone. So Allah made it easy for him, and therefore there were some traces of his feet on that stone. Now, obviously, right now when you look at it, it's no longer a stone anymore. If you look at it, it's covered with what? With silver and lead. So it's covered completely. That stone itself is covered. Okay, but if we look at the size of the stone in itself, it's just like, how could a person stand, with both feet on this stone? It doesn't look that big anymore. So what happened to it? What happened to it is that the stone itself, it stayed attached to the foundation of the bottom side of the Kaaba for a very long time. I don't know how many of you know that, but before the Prophet, the time, the Islamic era of Mecca, Al-Maqam, the stone of Ibrahim alayhi salam, was actually on the left side of Al-Hajar al-Aswad, attached to the bottom of a Kaaba. It was part of the structure. And obviously, the time of the Prophet ﷺ was number of people who come for Umrah is not as great as it is today. So people, they would do it, and when it's time to pray behind Maqam Ibrahim, they take distance away from the people who make tawaf, and they pray their 2 rak'ah in that same direction. Later on, the time of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala, the Muslim population grew big, and as people make tawaf, it becomes very difficult for people who finish their tawaf to pray the 2 rak'ah behind the maqam when the maqam is stationed in the original location. So he made his ijtihad radiallahu ta'ala, and he decided to remove al-hajar, remove that maqam, and puts it farther away from al-Kaaba to allow people make tawaf, and those who would like to pray 2 rak'ah behind the maqam, they have also their space away from the lines of tawaf, so they would not obstruct the tawaf itself. It is where it's located today. Is it exactly the same spot? Allahu a'lam, but he pulled it farther away from Al-Kaaba where people can make their tawaf and they feel easy at it, inshallah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Now the question once again, why Al-Hajar is not as big as we expect it to be, and are these traces of feet on that same stone the exact same feet of Ibrahim alayhi salam? The answer is, a lot of ulama, of course, historians, they very skeptical about if these traces are original traces of Ibrahim alayhi salam's feet. Instead, they say what happened is that people, when they used to come for Hajj and Umrah, they would, make their own ijtihad and judgment, and they take barakah from the stone. So when someone takes barakah from a stone, what do? They basically wipe over the stone with their hands, right? Imagine the millions of people doing that frequently. What happens to the stone? It says basically starts wearing out, eroding. Pretty much, basically. So they think of the erosion start taking place eventually, and the stone starts basically falling apart and becomes small. So they decided to protect that by putting it into a cascade and cover of silver and lead. And in order for them to kind of give that understanding of Al-Hajar, that's when they create the shape of the 2 feet that you will see on that stone. So these actually, they're not necessarily the original, kind of footsteps of Ibrahim alayhi salam. For people who look and they say, wow, they were small and tiny. Of course they're small and tiny because they're not the original feet of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Al-Hajar al-Aswad, I mean, Maqam Ibrahim has been established in that location for a very long time since then. And over the generations, of course, the location has become there for a very long time. Has there been any attempt to remove it, to push it back a little bit, to give people extra space for tawaf and so on? The thing is that nowadays, obviously with the connectivity of the internet and so on, any attempt to alter these positions of these rites of al-Hajj and so on, people might take it actually offensively, might create fitna. So they just left it as it is, so you know what, let it be. Although it might be difficult for people to still make tawaf and do the 2 rak'ah behind the maqam, but they can manage. The sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, every time you make 7 circles around the Kaaba, you pray 2 rak'ah behind the maqam. Whether you're doing Umrah or Hajj or just voluntarily tawaf. Every time you make 7, you finish that 7 with 2 rak'ah behind the maqam. What if I couldn't do it because there is no space? I mean, people that still making tawaf, they're filling the entire court of al-Kaaba. What do I do in this case? In this case, if you can go as far as you can away from al-maqam, but still in the same direction, aligning with al-maqam, that's best. But some people, they say even that is impossible. Why? Because in that same direction is where most people come in first for Umrah, or they come to the Haram, because that's where the main gate used to be, facing directly towards Al-Hajar al-Aswad. Also, aligning in line of that location of al-Maqam and Hajar al-Aswad comes also Safa and al-Marwa. So a lot of people who move between the different rites and rituals of al-Hajj and Umrah, so a lot of population. So they say, the ulama in there in the Haram, they say, if you don't have any access to a space that will put you in line with Maqam Ibrahim, just find a space anywhere in Al-Haram. Find a space that is convenient and safe, and pray 2 rak'ah with the intention that you're making these 2 rak'ah behind Maqam Ibrahim. That is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Is there any specific religious benefit or specific rituals that makes it beneficial to touch Maqam Ibrahim or kiss Maqam Ibrahim? The answer is no. The Prophet ﷺ didn't do it. As-Sahaba didn't do it. So the only thing that we have in connection with Maqam Ibrahim, the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to pray the 2 rak'ah, and find the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ performing these 2 rak'ah behind Maqam Ibrahim. When the Prophet ﷺ used to pray, it was reported that he used to recite Surah Qul Ya Ayyuhal Kafirun and Qul Huwallahu Ahad in these 2 rak'ah that he performed. Salawatullahi wa salam alayhi. May Allah subhanahu give us the ability to attend Ya Rabbil Alameen al-Bayt al-Haram. Allah subhanahu make us among those who will witness Maqam Ibrahim, pray and do Salat, they do actually Tawaf and they do the Umrah and Hajj Ya Rabbil Alameen, and given the opportunity to pray the 2 rak'ah behind the Maqam, Ya Allah. Wallahu alam. Any question, Jama'ah? Yes. No. Would it be, so since we say it's 1 stone up basically, so how high would that be if his hands are up, right? Keep in your mind that Ibrahim alayhi salam was taller than us. So therefore the height of Ibrahim alayhi salam was higher anyway. So if it was 1 stone up, it's still above our height anyway. Wallahu alam. Nah. It's over actually. We covered that in a previous session from before. We talked about the structure of the Kaaba. So the Prophet ﷺ, he wanted to do it according to Ibrahim alayhi salam's design or structure, but then he couldn't because the people were still coming coming in recent to Islam. Then Abdullah ibn Zubair, he did that structure in a rectangular actually shape. But then the Umayyads, when they came and took over, they put the Kaaba back into that original or previous position and structure. Then another Amir or another Khalifa wanted to put it back again to according to Hadith Aisha radiallahu anha, which is the structure of Ibrahim. He consulted with the ulama. The ulama told him, please don't touch it. Don't make the house of Allah Azza wa Jal a game or mockery into the hand of the leaders. Like each one of them comes and changes mind and changes again, so just stop it. Keep it as is and we're done. Wallahu a'lam. Nah. Yes. If you're going to be doing voluntary tawaf, can you do more than 7? Well, the sunnah is always to do things in 7, just like when you pray 2 rak'ah. And the salah in al-haram is just like making 7 tawaf. So if you make less and then you get exhausted, then it's just like you break a nafil salah. It's fine. But if you want to do more, then after you reach 7, break that, go ahead, pray 2 rak'ah, and then start again. Wallahu a'lam. Yes. No, if she's in a wheelchair and you're making tawaf for her, she can still pray the 2 rak'ah for herself behind the Maqam Ibrahim. Naam. Wallahu a'lam. Of course, I mean, if you're making tawaf for yourself, right? No, if you're making tawaf for her only, she prays the 2 rak'ah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. No. It is true. It's way down there in the ground, actually. No. Mm-hmm. Wallahu a'lam. Yes. No. Because they want to pray, they want to make Maqam Ibrahim, or the stone itself, between them and the Kaaba. So when they want to pray that, they put themselves in line, with Al-Hajj al-Aswad, Maqam Ibrahim, and all the way in the back they can pray in the same line. That's what most people like to do. And that's obviously the most preferable way of doing it, because you need to put the Maqam between you and the Kaaba. But if you're unable because of the crowd, then anywhere else you could pray with the intention that you're doing it behind Maqam Ibrahim. You talk about Maqam Ibrahim? Hajar, yes, it's one of the corners. Yes. Hmm. Almost right side of Al-Hajj al-Aswad. On the right side of Al-Hajj al-Aswad, you could say. So it doesn't have to be facing Al-Hajj al-Aswad. You need to be facing Al-Qibla, which is in this case Al-Kaaba. Wallahu a'lam. Not that I know of. Not that I know that's authentic. Yani. Allahu a'lam. Like it was hovering or levitating above the ground. So like it's levitating above the ground for Ibrahim alayhi salam to stand on it. Allahu a'lam. Not that I know of in any authentic narration that I know of. Wallahu a'lam. خير إن شاء الله. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.